Hey, y'all. Hey, I was just waiting for the music to go away before I jumped in here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning to our weekly radio broadcast of Hey, y'all. Hey, brought to you by Cayce. I'm Alicia.
Good morning, everyone. It is Cayce.
And I'm Monica. Welcome to our Hey Y'all Hey episode or podcast refresh, whatever you want to call it. We are here in YouTube and in Facebook, and we are happy to be here this morning. How are you guys doing this morning?
Doing well. It's going to be a scorcher here in the Midwest. So I got up early, had my coffee, got some exercise routine in, and now I'm just going to chill in the AC because it is going to be a barn burner in the Midwest today. So I am prepared. How are you guys doing?
Just same. We are in the South and we are just about hot and melting away like the Wicked Witch of the West. Because I think we're getting up into the high 90s, which is probably not as bad as over there in Texas, huh, Monica?
Y'all are so cute. we have been in the hundreds for like 2 weeks or something. I think we had one day of like 90s and we all were outside acting like it was fall. We were like, it's fall, it's 95 degrees. We woke up and it was 71 this morning. In the morning, we were like so happy, but I don't think we're going to get out of the 100s. I mean, yesterday was like 108. That was the temperature. I think real feel was like 115 or 116. So no, I mean, I know it's going to get hot up there for you guys though. I know it's just be hot, but I think we're all under that bubble of the heat.
We're kind of close to the Canadian border up here where I am, and it's going to be 105 real temperature today.
Yeah.
So we've lost animals at 98.
Yeah.
Today's 105. I have no idea what the heat index is going to be like, but it is a scorcher up here today. And when I woke up this morning, even before the sun came up, the entire house was sweating.
I can't do that. I can't be in the house if it's like super, super hot. Even though I keep my house at about 78, 79. But that's still cool compared to outside. Did y'all know, this is a funny story. I think I've told y'all off the air, but talking about keeping animals cool and safe in these kind of temperatures. Did you know that they don't like to swim, but they like to get in pools? My turkeys love to get into cold pools.
Oh, yeah, because they cool themselves off through their feet.
Oh, my goodness. It was so cute. Even though I've sold most of my toms, I only got my one tom, Big Daddy, and his little baby mama, Princess. But they yesterday were just chilling in the pool like they were at the community pool. Like, hey, what's up? Just chilling over here. It's too hot. So I was like, oh, well, that's interesting to know. Now, the chickens do not like to do that. They do not like to get in the pool. They're like, no, thank you. We'll get in dust.
Well, you know what you can do, though, on those really hot days to cool your chickens down is where they're going to be walking back and forth in their coop. If they have a little doorway, maybe they go from one area to another. Hose that down and get some mud and make them walk through the mud. They may not like to stand in the little pools, but if they walk through the mud, it will still have that cooling effect for them.
Oh, that's a good idea. I may have to do that today. Yeah, because they were, I had told y'all before, I finished up the run area by our coop and I opened the door and I was so excited. I was like, this is going to be beautiful footage for YouTube. All the chickens are just going to run out and just like fly and flip. And they looked out and they're like, nah, pimp, it's too hot. We going back inside. And they did. They looked at me and they turned around and all 11 walked right back into their coop.
Yep, they are scaredy chickens.
Well, it's definitely been hot here, and we went over the weekend to pick up some pigs for our farm, and we were trying to change the breeding program. It's a big deal here, and so we were really excited. We drove about an hour south, and we got there, and I mean, of course, everywhere you go now is dust. Like, it's a real thing. Like, there's just dust everywhere. So we pull up to this lady's house, and there's a dust devil blowing around. And she's like, oh, look, a dust devil. Like, it was no big deal. Of course, my son was like, what? That's cool. But it was a huge, like, dust devil just swirling in her backyard. And these poor pigs, I mean, there was a lot of them, and I'm not bashing anybody, but the economy has put a lot of pressure on a lot of people. And she's like, yeah, this is the first time I'm able to feed them in a little bit. And she was just giving them a bag of food, and these poor little sweet animals, I'm like looking at them going, oh my gosh, it's so hot. How are you guys out here? Because the shading for them, they were kind of all huddled in this shaded area. as we went over to her chicken coop area, there was a bunch of Brahma hens and there was like a rooster. And she was like, yeah, are you interested in any chickens? And I'm like looking at like, yes, I will take them, because they were in this metal run. Now, Cayce, I know your big coop area is like a metal framed, right?
Yes, it is.
Huge,
It
right?
is.
Big. Okay. There's a lot of
ginormous.
this coop that they were in was a smaller metal frame, maybe like a 10-foot like dog kennel size, but it was enclosed with metal. So it would be an amazing coop if it wasn't 100
metal and 4 billion degrees.
Like the real feel that day when I got out of the truck, I want to say it was like 108 that was the real temperature. So I think the real feel that day, or the actual like the field temperature, was like 115. And I was looking at these poor little birds and I'm going, oh my gosh, the pigs over there are living in dust devils, which is fine. Pigs like dust and dirt and mud and waller, but these poor little chickens, they need to get into a cooler space. So we took them, we bought them, we threw them in our truck or whatever, in the little dog pen we had in there. And Eric said, oh my gosh, they're probably so excited to have this AC in here. But
you're probably like,
metal,
score!
Yeah, they were like, woo! But the metal that they were in would have been amazing, for other times. But right now, that metal coop. So if you live in the South and you got your animals in metal coops, you may want to rethink, because she had already lost 2 of them. She was like, I don't know why they're dying. And I'm like, you're baking them. They live in an oven.
Was there not like any circulation? Like, with mine, the top part of the coop is open from the metal siding, and then on the turkey side, the bottom part is open.
There was a little bit. There was a little bit, but it was
not much though.
It wasn't as much. And so I think that's the look, she's doing her best because her and her husband are splitting up. There's just it's a situation, but she is the sweetest lady. So, but I was like, oh my gosh, let me take these birds. Let me rescue them. And the poor things, we got them home and they were so excited to see grass, and they're in this big open area and just different for them. But we lost one of them yesterday morning because it was like, it couldn't acclimate fast enough to outside life. But I was like, I think I know why they're dying. I told Eric when we got in the car, I said, I think they're in an oven. Like they were literally like being baked because
they were in a roaster.
Well, when she went to pick up the metal, she had a metal waterer, the big metal, really big, gallon or 5-gallon metal waters. She had one of those watering, and she went to pick it up because she was going to give it to me, and it burned her hand. She dropped it immediately. And I'm like, the water inside of this is probably also boiling. We're in Texas, y'all. We have to think about these things.
And, that's important. I mean, even for homesteaders that have been homesteaders for a long time, or newbie homesteaders, thinking about these kind of things, not to just push it, but we do have an episode on taking care of your animals in extreme heat and extreme cold. So definitely go back to our season 2 and listen to that, because we had somebody on that, I can't remember who was our guest host. Ladies, do y'all remember?
I don't.
They were really knowledgeable. I know that. That side of it. Really,
I want to say, was it Cayce from War Angel Farm?
That's what I'm thinking.
I think it was.
It might have been,
actually. And we had that was when Lisa from Yogi Hollow Farms was still with us also.
Yes.
And it was a great episode.
Well, Monica, your story is just a great reminder that we may have things implemented on our homesteads that 99% of the time work just fine, but you have to be able to work on the fly to fix that 1%. So, I know you said she was doing the absolute best she could. And like you said, we're not shaming anybody, but this is where, if you've got a box fan in your house, take it out, put the box fan out there, set up a misting system. You can put a fan up and have it dribble in front of a hose dribble in front of the fan, at least get some moisture and coolness distributed out into the air. You said that she had some openings at the top, which is great, but if there's not a good breeze, okay, yes, there was a dust devil, but if you don't have good air circulation, it's like a little oven in there, and they cannot handle that type of heat. Now, that might not have been something that was on their radar, but that's where it's important as you're putting your homestead together. Listen to what other homesteaders have to share so that you can learn from those experiences, so that your radar is up in case you come across times like that.
I think it's important too to remember that just because someone does it on their homestead, whether it's on YouTube or a friend of theirs that lives states away or whatever it is, find people that live in your area, like you said, because they're going to know what works in that area too. Because when you're planning your homestead, you can look, I can look at stuff that Alicia's using and go, oh my gosh, that's such a great chicken tractor. I'm going to use that. And then I put that on my homestead, but she lives in Iowa. I mean, things that are going to work for her aren't necessarily going to be good. And the door to this coop, it was like you could walk in the door. So it was tall and the door was completely meshed. So there was this, opening area there. And so it was kind of open in that area. So there was a breeze, but the problem is that on Saturday and basically the past few weeks in particular, the breeze that we're getting is like heat. It's like opening up your, outside stove. Like if you're outside grilling on the grill and you open up that grill and you feel that blast of heat coming from the grill, that's what it's like. So our breeze is like an oven breeze, like if you open the oven or you open that, that's what you're feeling. So even though there was a dust up, even though there was a breeze, I mean, we were outside for about 3 minutes before we already started sweating. By the time we got into our vehicle, we were already like completely drenched in sweat because there was no shade. There was no shade in her yard. And it's one thing to have a metal waterer that you're having shaded area. Like we have the metal water in our yard still. We actually brought it back with us. We put it in the shade. It is in a shaded area of our yard. Now, I don't really like metal waterers because we do live in Texas and it gets stupid hot. So I typically don't like them. But we took it she's like, oh, here, you can have this for free. And I'm like, of course. And so we've been using it the past few days and it's been so hot. I keep telling the kids, every time you go outside and refresh waters, I need you to put your fingers in that water and make sure that water is not hot. Now, so far, so good. It is in a shaded space. It's not getting that direct sunlight. But even in her coop where she was, there was sun that was hitting into that just enough to heat it up. And I'm thinking, wow, I wonder how long, these things need to sit before we need to really pay attention. So it's really important to find the people in your area that have maybe a little more experience too. And when you're planning your homestead, which is what our podcast episode yesterday was about, homestead planning, when you're planning those things out, it's important to know what you need for your area and the animals that will work for you in that area, because some of the things that work for your friends in other states may not work for you where you are. And, one of the comments was in our YouTube right now, Two Doves, Bees and Gardens, John and Sarah, they put frozen water bottles into the chicken run at lunchtime every day.
Absolutely.
We do that we don't do it for our chickens because they're not in a run. Ours free range all day. So they can go wherever they need to, whether that's, going into the garden or could go in the garden, going anywhere where there's actually taller grass and they can go in the shade anywhere they want. But we put the frozen water bottles into our rabbit hutches because that's what's needed for them to stay cool in these, temperatures right now. And we planned for that. When we knew we were going to get rabbits, we planned for those things and we planned to make sure that we had the water bottles, ready. We had those things in place. So one of those things about planning your homestead. Now, speaking about homestead planning, one of the things that I think is super important are barn cats. And we have a comment that we want to call out.
It's time for
subscriber comment call out. Pew pew pew.
Seriously, that's never going to get old. That's never going to get old for me.
Never.
Yeah, probably never.
Okay, so Jenny Wooten, we're going to say Wooten. That's how I'm going to say it. Jenny is so sweet. She posted a big barn cat question, and the question really was, hey, I've got these barn cats. This is what's going on. And she posted a really long post and people were reading it and interacting. And I love it because there were people that gave her some advice. She commented back, hey, look, everybody's acting healthy. Just want to let you guys know I'm taking them to the vet to get them looked at. And these are responsible barn cat owners. I love it. I absolutely love it. I wanted to say thank you for posting this. I thought it was great. She asked a question to a group of people, kind of like when you're out and you're just like, hey, general question here. We're new to barn cats. First of all, barn cats are super important when you live on a farm. When you live on a homestead, when you have animals and you have animal feed outside, you're going to have mice. And barn cats are around here anyway, are amazingly important. They have such great They have big jobs here on our farm. So I thought it was really awesome that she asked the question. She got some, feedback, and then she edited it and said, "Hey, thanks for the advice. No big deal. Thank you for all your, feedback. We're going to go ahead and take them to the vet, get them checked out, get them looked at." I think that's awesome. And I just wanted to say thank you for posting. Thank you for sharing those beautiful little barn cats. And I'm excited to see that you've planned ahead and you've got some barn cats for your homestead, because they really are helpful. Do you guys have barn cats on your homestead?
When we had a barn before a tornado took it away, we certainly did have barn cats. Now we have our neighbors' barn cats. We have our neighbors' barn cats. They come over, they peruse the area a little bit, and keep things at bay. Funny enough, I've named them after Alexander Hamilton and his wife Eliza, and it's kind of a fun thing if you're a Hamil fan like I am.
I was about to say, for those viewers that
Hamilton,
don't know,
I named
Alicia
my feral tomcat. Anyways, it makes me think that we had another question that was posed that was about barn cats, and a well-fed barn cat is an excellent mouser.
Yes.
So don't just let them rely on their hunting instincts alone. Make sure you feed your barn cats well. Just because they live in the barn, it doesn't mean that they're dispensable. They need to have care, just like Jenny's post. She's going to follow up with the vet. She's making sure they get everything they need. Your barn cats deserve that just as much as any other animal on your homestead. They're on the payroll, as Cayce likes to say. So
Certainly.
Take care of them and make sure that they have fresh water, good food, and they are going to earn their keep. They're going to take care of all of those mises. They're going to love them mises to pieces.
Well, I'll tell you, I wouldn't call it a barn cat, but when we moved to our homestead, there was a cat that was left by the previous owner. And bless her heart, she was deaf and blind. So I don't really know how amazing she was at keeping away the mice and stuff. They probably tiptoed around her.
I bet she kept critters away from your house.
She probably did before she lost her sight, because she had her sight when we first bought the homestead, and it slowly it was deteriorating while we lived there, and she's since passed. But we've seen a couple that haven't quite felt us out yet. That are like, I don't know if I like him yet. Like, yeah, okay, he gives us food, but I don't know about all that now. But we see them, so we do have, quote unquote, I'm gonna call them farm cats because I don't have a barn either.
Yeah.
So we're gonna call them farm cats. And definitely, as Alicia said, keep them fed, keep them watered, because they are. And I didn't originate that keep it on the payroll. That was Mr. Eric Bland.
I know, but you say it all the time.
I know. I get Eric his royalties.
Give him his props.
Yeah, pretty much. Even though if Eric is listening or rewatching, I say it better. But but
he's been so busy at work, he probably isn't even able to listen this morning. But I'm gonna make sure he comes back and listens to this one in particular.
Props to Eric as the original. And apologies for not giving him proper credit. I just know Casey's always saying it during our podcast and during our radio show.
Because it's so important and it's so true. I mean, everything is on the payroll. Everything should be working. And that goes for your veggie plants and anything. And when we're talking about homestead planning, that's something to look into your planning side. Like, like with us here at the homestead, did our peach trees produce enough this year to validate buying whatever you need fertilizer wise to put it for next year? And if it's a no, it means they's got to go. They got to come down and turn into some good old peach firewood. So that's why I always say it, because it is so true. And it doesn't just mean your animals, it's everything around your homestead. And of course, as we're shooting this morning show and we're talking about the heat, getting like texts from my family, and our air conditioning has now left the payroll.
Oh no.
Yeah, so that's just a joyful, exciting thing.
Wait,
it went on strike.
It went on strike. It's
your air conditioning right there at your house, like that you're in right now?
Yeah, the one right outside my office window. So
oh my word.
I know. So as we're talking about heat, I guess it was saying, yep, I'll show you heat.
Oh, this sounds like a good country song. It really sounds like the beginning of a good country song. Right outside my office window.
So yeah. So anyways, I guess this would be actually the best time to go ahead and send it over to our wonderful sponsors over at Cayce to hear a little bit more from them.
Products are just what your garden needs.
From fertilizing your orchards to feeding your soil, Cayce's calcium-based fertilizer gives your plants the essential minerals they need to thrive.
Applying Cayce to agricultural soils and waters has been proven to increase plant and crop yields while making vegetables and grains healthier and more nutritious.
In addition, Cayce can help restore the nutrient balance in animals when they're fed plants grown using Cayce in both soil and water.
To check out all of Cayce's organic products, visit cayce.com and use our promo code HeyBale for 10% off of your purchase.
Cayce is a wonderful product. We love it very, very much.
It really is.
It really is. Right. So, we're going to bring up, what are we bringing up, Cayce? What's next? What's our little thing that's coming? I want to hear it before I move on. We're going to talk about bugs, and it's time for a subscriber what?
It's time for
subscriber comment call out. Pew pew pew.
I'm sorry, I threw Cayce under the bus there. So we're looking here.
I was about to say under the rolling bus.
Under the bus that's completely out of control. So this is Laura's post, and it's about these really ugly bugs. I don't know what type of bugs these are. I think she said they were lantern bugs. I don't have them in my area. I have box elder bugs that look similar, but not like this. And she shared someone else's post about the best way to eliminate these bugs on your homestead. So just to clarify, because I did ask the original poster to kind of edit that for me, and I'm going to put this out there for everybody listening who happens to belong to our beginner's homesteading guide. When you're posting something, please be very, very cautious about things that come across. I'm not throwing any shade. I just asked for this to be fixed because on the back end of our group that our members, our 67,000 plus members don't see, is we get notifications all the time from the Facebook community standards that something has either been removed or has been flagged or is a problem. And sometimes they'll say, oh, you're not in trouble this time, but you could be next time. And so we just want everybody to be very, very cautious and conscientious about how things are worded. So, for instance, I just asked her to kind of fix the K word that's in this original post, and it was brought to my attention. It's not her post. She shared another post. She's unable to change it. But just so that the general membership is aware, I understand this is reality. Things, DIE. But we need to think of ways to come up with different words so that the group itself doesn't come in to having these red flags thrown. And we'll talk about the bugs. I just really wanted to get that out of the way because this is your guys' group, 67,000 members strong. And the things that we do as admin is to protect the group. It's not because we're wanting to censor. It's not because we're getting our feelings hurt. It's because we're trying to protect the group. We don't want to get dinged and then lose the group because then you guys won't have it anymore. So just be cautious, please. If you're going to be talking about processing your animals, use the word process. Don't use the K word. If you have a predator that needs to be eliminated, please use the word eliminated. There are just little ways that you can be creative that doesn't put those flags up. And I'll give everyone an example for those who might think that I'm overreacting. We had a troll early on in this group who was causing a lot of havoc. And so I removed them from the group, and I had posted on my profile, posted to the group, hey guys, don't worry about the troll anymore. I KICKED them to the curb, and they're no longer a problem. That red flag, the community standards, I have one strike against my personal account. I have fought it. They will not remove it because I incited violence for simply
my
saying
word.
something that you would do to a soccer ball.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Oh yeah,
Jesus.
they're serious. So if I get 2 more, they're going to take my account away from me.
Yeah.
And all I did was, it was a simple word. So I'm just trying to protect the group, and the admin, the rest of the admin are trying to protect the group when we do things like that. Let's get back to the bugs. How many of you have?
And we don't mean the Facebook bugs.
Yeah, the garden bugs, the bugs on your homestead. Like I said, we have those box elder bugs. They are the most annoying. They do kind of resemble those bugs that she shared. They're annoying. They're kind of like Midwestern stink bugs, but they really don't cause any problems. But we do have bugs in the garden from time to time, like squash bugs and vine borers and the those little bugs that have the really clear wings that cause all kinds of problems and stuff. And here's one right here from John Snow. And
Yeah.
he's got an issue. He's got an issue in his garden right there.
Oh my word. This is like big issue.
Jumping
Well,
down.
I want to say, I wanted to say how easy this is to happen though, because one day you're out in your garden, you don't see anything, you don't know to look under the leaves for those little bitty, crazy looking, teeny tiny, shiny eggs that are on the underside of those leaves. And they're not under every leaf. It can be under 3 or 4 leaves. They're huge. There's a lot of leaves. And then in the next day or 2, all of a sudden you've got all these giant bugs everywhere. And you're like, what in the heck? Now, mind you, most of these are adults we're looking at, but we have got a lot of babies in there, and these are squash bugs. And let me just tell you, I don't have the lantern flies either, but I've got squash bugs. And once you get squash bugs,
Me too.
very hard to get rid of.
They are not on the payroll. They are not on the payroll.
But the thing is we've had the question before, how do you get rid of them? What's a great way to get rid of them? A lot of people want to know, what's the natural way to do it? There's a lot of different places. There's a lot of different things. The pine sol sugar and water thing helps. I mean, you spray dishwater and, the dish soap or whatever, Dawn dish soap mixed with water, you can spray that. There's a lot of different natural things out there. Neem oil, diatomaceous earth until the problem's gone. I mean, you can do all that, but there's so many things you can do. There are a lot of toxic things you can do, and there's a lot of organic, non-toxic things. So it's one of those, which way do you want to go? What do you want to do for your family? How do you want to plan what's best for you? But man, bugs are a thing. If you're in the chat, I would love to know, what is your best or favorite, or what have you seen that's worked for squash bugs? If you're in the chat and you've got bugs in your garden, or you've had bugs in your garden, what have you used to squash those? Can I say squash? Those squash bugs.
Squash is good to
Well,
eat.
I want to mention while we're talking about that too is, when people ask that question of how to naturally get rid of something, listen, if you have to non-organically get rid of something to save your plant, ain't no shame in that game. Okay. Sometimes it just gets to the point where not always the all natural thing is going to help.
Yep, exactly.
And there is no shame in that. Listen, I've done that before. I've done it because I want to make sure that I get food for my family. Okay. I'm not trying to win some 100% organic award on YouTube or Instagram. I'm doing it to put food away. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there, that if you have to resort to that, there is no shame in that. Okay. Because other than the bugs, this tomato plant looked like it was a beautiful plant before the homies took over. And when the homies take over, they take over hardcore.
Yeah, that's a squash plant or something, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's I think it's probably, I don't even know where he is.
It's covered in
bugs. He said it's Maine, so it may be summer squash.
Northwest Maine. Yeah, it looks like squash. It looks like there's even a tomato plant shoving in there somewhere.
Yes.
Like his plants are kind of everywhere.
But those bugs, it just, John Snow, I'm sorry for you, my friend, because they look no good. Okay, look no good.
And hopefully he got some good advice and some of the answers there that the other members were able to share. Just a few comments. If you see this post in our Facebook group and you've got some suggestions for John, please go in and leave those suggestions for him so he can start getting an upper hand on these squash bugs. Maybe, now I'm just saying that this maybe it's too late for that plant, but give him some advice so he's prepared. We're talking about homesteading preparedness, preparing your homestead. Maybe he'll be prepared then for next season. Just like Monica said, look under the leaves. Look under the leaves for those tiny little clusters of eggs that you don't know what they are and you leave them. Maybe those need to go. Make sure that you learn how to identify what is friend, what is foe. Get rid of the foe. Prepare yourself for next year so you can do that for your garden, John. And hopefully you're able to save this plant that you've got here, but if not, be prepared for next year. And know that as winter comes, many of those insects right there are probably going to go dormant in your soil, in your older plants, and they might come back next year with fresh eggs. So learn what you need to do for your soil to make sure you don't have this problem again next year. It's a challenge, and that's one of those things that we face when we live on our properties.
And we always say that it's not for the faint of heart. So homesteading is definitely not for the faint of heart.
There's work to be done, and there's always challenges that are going to rear their ugly faces right in your face, and you have to know what to do. And thankfully, that's what's great about the homesteading group is we've got knowledge, we're able to share, and we can commiserate and try to help you overcome those issues.
So, when you're talking about planning and all those things, and just in general, you plan out what you're going to do with your garden, you plan out what you're going to do with your family, your space that you have, and with your animals. And so sometimes you don't have space for those animals. Sometimes you don't have those animals yourself. Sometimes you go outside of your homestead to grab what you need. Sometimes you're just gifted things. And so we have another comment call out.
It's time for
subscriber comment call out. Pew pew pew. Lord.
Okay, so this is one Cayce actually brought up too, and then I saw it and we started talking about it briefly. April Huey posted, I received a large package of pork fat from my butchered pig. What do I do with it? So awesome job that you had a pig butchered. I think that's awesome. And, being able to do that, being able to process your own animals, that's great. Now, what do you do with the pork fat? So depending on large is relative, first of all. So how big is large? Because depending on how big her pig was, it's not that much. Now, there's all kinds of great things you could do with this. One of the things that I would do personally, and which most of people said, was render the fat. You take the meat, you chunk it up. You take the fat, you chunk it up, and then you put it in your crock pot. Get it boiling, and then pull out those cracklings, which is those extra pieces of meat, I guess, that kind of run to the surface. Not really meat, but those pieces of, I don't even know what it is. It's just the extra.
Little side meat, maybe?
I don't know. It's just chunks of, I guess it's chunks of like meat protein that are still attached to the pork fat.
I've done fainted away.
Is that what it is? Wait.
No, I think Alicia fainted.
Oh, okay.
From the pig fat.
But you can do all kinds of stuff with it, and it's very useful. You can feed it to your dogs. You can keep it and, keep it for when you process other animals. If you go hunting and you do it for deer season, you can add that fat to those meats, because there are a lot of really lean meats out there that do need fats with them.
I didn't know that, Monica, when you were telling me before the show, that for those that are listening that don't know it, I'm going to have Monica explain it. But with any of your ground meat, you're going to add fat back into that meat, especially with deer meat, because deer meat is very, very lean. Mm-hmm. But Monica, you want to kind of explain that, because we saw that a lot in the comment.
Yeah, a lot of people said save it for when you process something else. But, we raise grass-fed only beef here. And so our meat is quite lean. Now, we obviously there's fat on our animals. So when we take them to the processor, they're really great. And when we get our meat back, it's about a 90-10 split for our beef in particular. Now, our pigs, our pork fat is a pork sausage and things like that has a little higher content of fat, because our porks have a different ratio. But yeah, you take that fat, whether it's pork fat or whatever fat they're adding, and you're going to add it back into sausages and all the different things. This is definitely not Alicia's cup of tea, but when you're dealing with sausages in particular and ground meats, you want to add a little bit of that moisture content, that fat, which has the moisture content. You're going to add that in there. I guess it's not really, is it moisture? I don't know. I'm like in here thinking about it in my brain, but yeah, I mean, you're going to add that fat back to that meat because it is so lean. And if you didn't add it to that, you're going to put it in your skillet. If you're making like ground, like for instance, we have ground rabbit here. It is so lean that when we put it in our skillet, it dries out so fast. If I don't add some really good fat to my skillet when I start to grill that up or fry that up, to make something with, I have to add it to other fats or other meats to keep it in a good consistent texture, a good, texture wise, because otherwise it just kind of shrivels up and dries out and it's no good.
And don't nobody want that on their tacos. I mean, you got to have, that's the way to do it is. And I thought it was interesting because, you always, and this may just be me being somewhat of a blonde, but when you go into the store back when people used to buy meat at the store, and you'd see the 80-20 on the ground beef. You don't really think of what that is, but that's what Monica was explaining to me before the show is it's 80% of the beef and it's 20% of the fat. So that's why when some people are looking for less fatty meats or more fatty meats, that's why they look at those numbers. So I just thought it was very interesting. I saw a lot of soaps. Now, I guess you can call me the soap folk from the three of us. I have never made soap from pig fat before.
I've not either, but the lady that I learned to make soap from used to get a lot of deer fat from the hunters, and she would render it in her kitchen, and she would use that in her soap.
Now, would it smell like pork?
I wouldn't go to her home on the day that she did. No,
I was about to say,
I don't know what your soap would
like bacon
like
afterwards, or
I don't know, but back in the days, if you go back and you watch Gone with the Wind, she's making lye soap, and that's what they would use back in the days. They would use lard and lye, and they would make soap. So lard was the go-to oil. It was the go-to fat for soap making back in the day. I want to throw one more thing out here that you can do with that lard. If you find a section of lard, or if you've rendered it down and maybe you've got something that isn't something you necessarily want to put with your food, scoop that off the edges and you can roll that in bird seed and then put it in a little bird seed feeder, a little suet feeder, and you can feed your wild birds. So they need that extra fat for winter. They do need the extra fat for winter, and you can just roll the seeds in it and put it in one of those little suet holders. And that's a nice thing you can do with that extra lard when you render it down.
I think you can also do, now don't quote me on this, but I think you can also do candles from the fat as well if you really want to get.
Oh, I'm sure you can, because I used to have whale fat candles that my grandmother brought back to me from Alaska. So I'm sure you could probably, just like Ann Dale's Crisco candles, you could probably do a rendered fat candle for emergencies. But I don't know how long it would be before that sounds or smells rancid. I'm not sure. I've never had one.
Me either. But I did want to call out this comment on it that said, "Ship it to me." Yeah. That was hysterical.
Well, because people know it's gold.
It really is. And I mean, even if you a lot of the times, we talked about this on one of our older podcasts, is if you do get your animals processed at a certain processor, most of the time they don't even know what to do with all of that leftover fat that other customers may not want. Get it and use it. And most of the time, I think here where we are, they'll give it away. If you go in, they'll just hand you over a bag of fat and be like, "Please take it off of my hands." What about y'all? Do y'all have that where you are?
I've got some to donate. Mostly around my hips and thighs.
Oh my God.
Well, I think it's important too, because there's a lot of people that are getting into raw feeding their animals. People raw feed their dogs. And I know that's a really big thing that people are doing. And, pork fat, beef fat, any of those things, that's going to be something that you can use to add into their diet. I know for us, for instance, whenever we get our animals back, when we take an animal into our processor, we get everything back we can possibly get. And the processor is super great. She'll ask us, her name's Katie. She's so great. She'll say, do you want everything back? And we're like, absolutely. We want everything we can possibly get back. And we'll bring back the bones. We'll bring back whatever we can because there's so many uses. And, sometimes some processors will sell the things, she'll sell extra if people don't want the bones or whatever. But that fat is really useful for so many different things. And sometimes, like you said, people don't necessarily know what to do with it. Give it to a friend that does. Or, give it to somebody who's using it for something else. It's really helpful to know people, make friends, know people.
Yes.
If the fat and the lard was not worth something, you wouldn't find it for sale in blocks in the grocery store.
Right.
It's the people pay for it. So if you've got it and it's part of what you've gotten back from your processor, definitely there are ways to utilize it. And I'm so glad that so many people were able to give her so many suggestions.
Yeah, and that post got over 8,000 views. So that's the one beautiful thing about this group is that if you have questions, ask them in there, because a lot of eyes are in the group that's 67,000 plus strong.
And I'll just remind everybody, keep your comments kind. We're a kind group. Keep them kind. I'm on my soapbox all day today.
It's all right. You stand on that soapbox.
No, just don't stand there. Go up and down the soapbox, because that's a
exercise while I'm doing it.
Yeah, up and down the soapbox. That's a good exercise.
But you have to do that 80s workout video sound, that he who he.
Oh gosh, no, that's Lamaze. Now don't bring back those memories.
No, oh my gosh, no. Really, there was I got it at Goodwill, and it was a aerobics video that I had to find a DVD player for. And that was the sound that they were doing as they were doing on the stepper, like the old stepper step.
I don't know that I want to go down this road.
I think you were born in the late 80s. I think you can't even talk about that. So I think we're going to have to stop this conversation. This is not going anywhere. You do you. Find you a Richard Simmons. You want to go find a good old fashioned, you go step into the oldies, okay? That's how you get.
I would not for his, so.
Or walk away the pound.
I used to love Richard Simmons. Their songs come on the radio now, and I still will bust out in my brain. Not really, physically. I'll bust out those moves.
Yeah.
I can't do them now, but in my brain, I do them.
Step into the oldies, walk away the pounds with Leslie Sansone or something. Come on, walk away the pounds. You can do it. And
stretch into the classics.
Yeah. Got to go with those. But no, Casey, that breathing thing, no, that's definitely Lamaze. That's definitely Lamaze. Exactly. Look right there. John and Sarah agree. From here, that sounded like labor and delivery sound. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Nobody wants to remember that.
See, we should know. That's why I'm fat and still fat. So, because we obviously I'm not watching many of those workout videos.
Poor Casey. He's doing his Lamaze breathing, wondering why he's not having any progress. It's really because he ain't pushing out no baby.
He's like, I don't get it. He, why am I out of breath now?
Okay. Moving on,
he says.
From my craziness. This episode is not just talking about Lamaze breathing. It is talking about homestead planning. And this next post that I found, I just wanted to shout this person out because she is jumping into this lifestyle and planning for the future. So this is another one of our...
It's time for...
Subscriber comment call out. Pew, pew, pew. A mess.
Yes.
Just a mess. And this one was from Mel Jo, and she wanted to introduce herself and say that this is where she is living while their cabin is being built, and she is jumping off grid and becoming more self-sufficient. And she said she would be lying if she wasn't scared, because she definitely is. Listen, we all have those fears when we jump into this lifestyle, because again, we say it's not for the faint of heart. But this is a beautiful picture, and I just welcome you to the group. I welcome you to this community. It's a wonderful community. And I'm telling you, it will change your life living this lifestyle as it did mine. And I know for my co-host too. It's just a simple not really stress free because I'm still stressed, but it's a different type of stress.
Yes.
But it's just, to me, it just makes my soul happy, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. What about y'all? What do y'all have to say to this post?
Well, I want to say that if you're not nervous about something, you're not doing something right, because we all have elements of I don't want to say fear. It's just an element of anticipation, anxiety. If you're not feeling that, you're doing something wrong. You should have that. It should be an excitement, a fear. If you're not fearful, you're not living. And I know people are going to come at me for that, saying you shouldn't have fear in your life. What I'm saying is, I used to do interviews for employment, and I'd ask people, are you a little nervous? And they'd be like, no. Well, then I know you're lying to me, because you have to have a little bit of nervousness in something that excites you, something you're excited to try, these new adventures. Either that, or if you're going in without any anxiety or anticipation or fear, anything, then that just, to me, comes off that you're being cocky, like you just know everything and I've got this. No, nobody's got it straight out of the gate. You can have confidence, but it has to be measured out with a little bit of an element of healthy, respectful fear. I think it's a wonderful thing that this individual shared the idea that they're nervous about this, because that shows us that there's excitement with that. There's the willingness to learn. They're stepping out beyond their comfort zone, which is what all of us are doing. And it's a wonderful thing. So I applaud them for the honesty in that. And they've shared, April has shared quite a few lovely things. Oh, not April, I'm sorry, we've moved on and I can't see the name. But this recent post about moving on, Mojo, I think it's a wonderful thing. So I applaud her vulnerability in saying, this is what's happening and this is how I'm feeling. And we're all behind you. We've all felt that way. It wasn't easy for us to give up everything that we had in our life and come here to this little farm.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the best move we've ever made. So we applaud you on that. And she also shared about the different stages of egg development, which I thought was very interesting. All of us thought that was very interesting as well.
Yeah.
And if you've ever candled your egg, if you go out and candle your eggs, it's really neat to know what you're looking at there. And especially when they get to those later stages and you can actually see them moving inside the egg.
Yeah, I'm excited about that part.
Yeah, I think that's one of my favorite parts. I have a very well-known around the homestead and probably on YouTube, a very well-known addiction to hatching out eggs and incubating eggs. And I absolutely love the stages.
We support you.
Of incubation. I love it. I love every bit of it. It is the most amazing thing. I think being a homeschool mom, it's part of like who I am. Like I feel like in general, you can learn something new every day if you allow yourself to learn something new. Whether you're an adult or whether you're a kid, you can always learn something new. And how could you not just love something like that? I mean, it's just so cool. And if you've never seen something like that before, it just really draws you in because it's just creation. It's just beautiful. I mean, I don't know. I am always a big advocate of learning something new, reaching out and doing something that's beyond what you already know. And so, yeah, this is a homeschool mom's dream.
The most rewarding thing for me is when they get to nearing that day 21. And if you listen, you can actually hear them peep inside the shell.
Yes.
You can hear them. It's the most amazing thing. And their little eggs, they roll around in their little eggs, and the eggs roll in the incubator. They shift back and forth. Mm-hmm. And then to watch them actually, that first little pip where they break through, and then to watch them hatch. It's an amazing thing, regardless of your age. It doesn't matter if you're 1 or 99. Sitting and watching those eggs hatch, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So it's important to know how to candle them to make sure whether you have a viable egg or not. You don't want to get to a stage of day 18 and look at it and say, oh, that's no good, and throw it away. You need to know what you're looking for. Look for that movement. Look for the different characteristics of the egg. And even look in your very first few days, you'll see the veining. You can see the veins around days 6 and 7 here that are showing in those eggs. And that tells you you've got a viable fertilized egg. Take care of it. make sure that you've got your humidity settings and your temperature settings set up correctly in your incubator. Or if you've got a hen setting on those eggs, and you want to candle them, that's fine. Just take them out, candle them.
Well, I think we want to hear from you too. So definitely, if you're re-listening to this show or if you're in the live right now, leave a comment if you would like one of our podcast episodes to be about candling eggs. I think that would be a great topic, especially incubating, candling, all of that kind of stuff. So kind of the process on how to do when you decide to plan out your flock.
And let us know if you've ever heard your hens doing any Lamaze breathing when they're pushing those eggs out. I think if you listen carefully, you'll find that they do.
I agree. And maybe it's just my chickens and turkeys that do it. Okay.
Yeah, that's what you're hearing out there.
He's like,
no,
okay.
All the chickens and ducks out there making all that Lamaze breathing.
They follow it up though with a lovely egg song when they're done.
They do.
Because who wouldn't?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. That's one thing we don't do when we have babies. I think that maybe that should be, talked about. We should start singing immediately after we have babies from now on.
If you have the energy. Who has the energy?
Yeah, the only thing I want to do after I have a baby is eat a sandwich. So.
Right? I'm not going to break out in chorus. Shove a ham and cheese in my mouth and call it a day.
I'm good. What do you have on that tray from the cafeteria?
My mother tells the story about she was so exhausted after I was born. She quite literally fell asleep with a ham and cheese hanging out of her mouth.
I believe that. I actually believe that. Well, we talked about eggs, and I'm not sure if we have another egg post or not. Cayce, do we have any more subscriber comment call outs, or we have one more or no? It's time for
subscriber comment call out. Pew, pew, pew. I wasn't sure. I didn't know we had. Yeah, I totally was gonna I wanted to play the sound again, but no, this one I saw and I just thought it was really cool. Of this person, Thomas Reynolds. Their video is about kind of their farm and homestead update, but they're weighing their eggs to compare them to the other eggs they were laying. Monica, you were describing it better than I was.
So on this post, it looks like what he actually has a farm. It's called Life in the Valley on YouTube. And so you can go and check out his YouTube channel. If you click this link, you can go over there. It's really interesting. There's a lot of people that post their YouTube channels in this group. And I want to say, one, it can be, as a person, I know it can be super annoying sometimes to see YouTube videos constantly being put up. But I will say that there's a lot of good content in some of these videos. Not all of these videos. I'm going to be real honest. Not all these videos are good. Some of them are trash. But what I am going to say is that this video.
We're not speaking to any of you. We love all your videos.
We love all your videos. No, we don't actually. Some of these videos have not been good, but I watch a lot of them because I'm always interested in other YouTube channels that I can go to and learn from. And what I am saying is that this channel, this Life in the Valley on YouTube, they are posting here. It's about their chicken coop update. It's a lot more to it than just this one little piece, but this photo was great. This thumbnail was catchy. And so I went and saw the video, and this part of it, at least, he's weighing out the different size eggs that he's getting. And I think it's awesome because if you're really into selling your eggs, you need to know how you're going to sell them. Sometimes if you're going to sell them to a farmer's market, Cayce, you're not selling your eggs at a farmer's market, are you? Because you're not getting eggs yet, right?
Yeah, ours are still pretty early on and no egg laying, but we haven't sold. But I see what you mean by being able to sell them, whether you sell them small, medium, large, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And so this really cute little, it's called the Jerry Way or something, the Jiffy Way or something like that. I can't even read it from here, but it's really cool because you can weigh your eggs out and it can tell you whether it's a large, an extra large, a medium, a small, and he's weighing the different types of eggs he's got there. And I think it's awesome. And it's a really, really good way to plan for your homesteading future. If you are selling eggs and you want to sell them as large or extra large eggs, you can maybe get a little more money for them than if they're smaller eggs. That's a really great way to plan for income, getting money back for your homestead. And I just think it's a really great way to look at how everything on your homestead is going to be a producer. They're all going to be on the payroll. And so if your chickens are on the payroll and you're not going to be able to consume all the eggs that they're giving you, why not sell them? weigh them out. And I think it's great. And, again, I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody in particular. I literally am not.
But some of your videos are terrible.
Well, some videos may apply to some other members in the group.
Yes, of course.
Using them. So, but
that's a really good way to say
it. Wouldn't it be awesome if that egg scale sang an egg song every time you put an egg on there?
I have been on the search here where I live for a vintage egg scale for years. Everybody hangs on to them. Nobody gets rid of them in estate sales or at the auctions. I cannot get my hands on a good vintage egg scale. That one's cute. I would love it if you just put the egg on it and it goes.
Well, I just want to let everybody know that if a company is listening that makes these egg scales, that Alicia is available to record and send your sounds.
And Mama be willing to measure and weigh her eggs. I'll weigh my eggs.
She can do the chicken sounds too. She just doesn't do the do kind of thing. She does it all.
Oh, I do it all. I even do Lamaze breathing.
Probably not as good as me. But I'm going to say, on that note, we're going to pass it back to our fabulous sponsor over at Cayce and hear a little bit more from them before we wrap this episode up. Lamaze style.
With gardening season in full bloom, Cayce certified organic products are just what your garden needs.
From fertilizing your orchards to feeding your soil, Cayce's calcium-based fertilizer gives your plants the essential minerals they need to thrive.
Applying Cayce to agricultural soils and waters has been proven to increase plant and crop yields while making vegetables and grains healthier and more nutritious.
In addition, Cayce can help restore the nutrient balance in animals when they're fed plants grown using Cayce in both soil and water.
To check out all of Cayce's organic products, visit cayce.com and use our promo code HeyBale for 10% off of your purchase.
Well, like we've said before, we absolutely love Cayce. It has been a great additive to our homesteads. And, we're getting ready to wrap up our show here. We want to thank everybody for joining us. We've had a fun time. If you've gotten a few laughs, if you've gotten a few little nuggets of knowledge, thank you so much for joining us. Remember to come back next week. And remember that our podcast, Round the Hay Bale, drops every Monday. And we are just as unscripted and unhinged in our podcast as we are here in our radio show, in our little morning radio program. So make sure that you head on over. What is that noise? Is somebody doing Lamaze?
That was the Lamaze in the background saying us goodbye.
See, Alicia thought it was me.
I thought it was your dog. I didn't know what was going on. But next week we're going to have a guest on our radio program, or is it just on our podcast? I don't know. I just show up. But we're going to have Ann Dale with us. Ann Dale is either going to be on our podcast. Tell me, guys, what is it just in the podcast, or is she joining the radio show as well?
I think it's for sure. I know it's for sure the podcast, and she may be able to show up here in our episode on Hey Y'all Hey. If it's not next week, then it might be the following, because I think Ann Dale's a two-parter. Am I right, Cayce?
She is. She's a two-parter. We had so much fun with Ann Dale when we were shooting with her that we had to make it 2 episodes. Yes. So I want to say I think she will be here next week. It's hard when you're a celebrity like Ann Dale. You're all over the place.
Yeah, she's a celebrity.
She spent time with us.
I know. We felt so lucky.
She's a wonderful, wonderful lady. If you've not had a chance to check her out, make sure you go find her on YouTube. What is she calling her channel now? Because I know that there was a name change. Is it just Ann Dale Homestead?
It is.
I think so, yeah.
Ann Dale Homestead.
And she's just a sweet, sweet lady. You'll enjoy listening to her. And make sure you check out our YouTube channels as well, because we've got all kinds of hilarity and shenanigans going on that you'll enjoy. But you know what? We're out of time for today. So we're going to wrap up this episode of Hey Y'all Hey. We thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week. Hit the QR code if you're watching on YouTube so you can have access to all of our social media platforms. Until we see you or hear from us next week on our little radio program here, we will see you next week. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and have a blessed week. Bye-bye.